In this video, we're going to be installing the Govee Permanent Outdoor Lights Pro. So continuing on our plans to update the lighting on the shop here at our new location, we are going to be putting on the permanent lights around the outside of the shop here. And that'll provide some really nice lighting the whole way around the shop, with also having the festive holiday lighting that we can activate like we did at our previous location with the simple push of a button in the app. One of the things I really liked about the permanent outdoor light kit that I had before was the ability to set the colors and set timers. So I could go in, choose a nice soft white, something that wasn't too bright, but it lightened up the space quite well. And I could set it on timer so it automatically turned on at certain times and automatically turned off at certain times. And 90% of the time, that's how I used the system, and it worked really well. But I also had the ability to jump in the app and activate a holiday mode or even program my own mode if I wanted to. And the Pro Lights kit takes it a little bit further. So we're gonna dive into this, get this installed, and just see how it compares to the standard kit versus the Pro. So opening up the box, you can see inside you have your basic quick start guide here. And as with anything, if you're not quite sure, reading these things is always a pretty good idea. It'll give you an idea. Go ahead and open up the first box here and see what we got inside. Now, I just happen to have a pair of the permanent outdoor lights that we had on the house before. I'm gonna open them up and we'll get a little bit of a side-by-side comparison to the new Pro lights. So comparatively speaking, the size is about the same. First off, one big thing that I do notice is that there are many more LEDs on the Pro than on the regular. The regular, you have the one single LED, which actually did a really good job, in my opinion. But I haven't installed the Pros yet, so I should hold judgment, I guess. But with these, we do see 6 extra LEDs. Now, to me, those look like white. I'm assuming that's what this is. I'll be honest with you, I didn't read a whole ton about every little feature of this system, and I got it a couple months ago, so it's kind of been what little bit I did read, it was kind of in the back of my mind. So we're gonna be figuring out some of this stuff together as I go through it. But that part was pretty interesting to see the extra LEDs on there. Looks like your adhesive on the back is about the same. So it's probably gonna be the same process to install this. We're gonna want to have some alcohol and a rag and make sure we wipe down the surface real good. I did that on the last place. I never had a single one of these fall off. I've seen a lot of people have some issues, and there's a lot of online retailers that actually print brackets for these to be able to screw them into place. That's something you definitely could look into if you want to, but in my experience with this kit initially, I did not have an issue sticking it to the vinyl on the side of the house. Interesting enough, it does look like the plug is actually the same between the two. Now, I would not recommend trying to add the Pro to the other kit. Just knowing the LED layout is very different. I cannot imagine they are cross-compatible. So when I opened up the box and got everything laid out, took a little bit of a better look at what all is included in the kit. I do see some added components that are really welcome. We do have 2 long extensions, and it looks like they're about 10 feet each. So you have 2 10-foot extensions there and 4 extensions that are right about 4 feet. So that is pretty nice to see, having that many extensions versus the old kit that we installed, I believe is a 150-foot kit. It had 1 extension, and I had to extend the extension in order to get from the lower floor up to the top floor. So that's very much welcome. Something else that I noticed in here was kind of interesting. They have what appears to be a signal booster. Now, I did actually read the manual just to determine a little bit more about this, but it says that in the event that you are running 200 feet, that you want to use this, and you put it after the 5th strand. So you would do 5 of these, and you would put this, and then you would put the other 7 after that, and that will get you the full 12 for 12 of these for a 200-foot run. So it does appear to be some kind of a signal booster or something to clean everything up. It's pretty heavy, but it doesn't actually plug into anything other than the strip itself. So it's not a power injector. Seems to be more like a booster of some sort. And I do remember reading about this. So this kit is made to be cuttable. So you can cut the kit and make it shorter or longer depending on the length of your eaves or anything. So let's say you run 4 of these and a half to get across a section that you want to go. You do have the ability to cut it, use this, which is a waterproof solderless connection point. So what you're able to do is run your wire through this nut here, and when you tighten that down, it will create a watertight seal around that wire. and then you can put each of the wires into these holes here, and they all just pull down, put the wire in, snaps it, holds the wire in place, screw the nut back on top like so, and then you have created a new connection. So solderless way to be able to change the lengths of strips if needed so that it will fit your application better. So I'll say that is a big thing with this kit that I noticed versus the other kit that I used. It does seem to be a lot more user customizable. Pretty friendly in that sense that you don't have to cut wires, solder wires, and do things like that like I did with the other kit. As well as I would venture to guess that because of a lot of these extensions and things that are included, they've probably figured out a lot of the issues that we saw with the older kits, where if you ran a long run from one section to the next, you would get flickering, and you would have to get some kind of a signal booster to make that flicker go away on that longer run. I would venture to guess that's probably not nearly as much of an issue with this kit versus the other one. And last up is the power connection here. It does look like there is quite a bit of wire for it, so I don't know exactly how far you could get it. With the extensions that are included in the kit, I would venture to guess you could go clear up to the top of a second floor and run it along the eaves without too much issues. Definitely nice to see some of those added features. In addition to that, we do see the standard wire holders with the screws, and that was Govee's way of addressing any concerns that a pod might fall. And for me, I didn't even use any of them. I didn't need to, but it is nice to see it in the kit, as well as replacement adhesive tape in the event that any of your strips do fail to stick. You can always just peel that off, put a new one on, and you should be good to go. Once again, making sure to wipe down the surface real good with the alcohol and a microfiber cloth, just to try to remove any grime or dirt that might be on the surface before you adhere it. So that's what's in the box. Let's go ahead and go outside, figure out where we're gonna put our power box, and then get ready to start our first run. So I've got several options for electrical outside of the shop. I have one that's up in the middle by the door, and I don't really want to put it there because it's a little bit more of a high traffic area, and I kind of want to put this in a place where it's a little bit less conspicuous. So I'm going to put it right here at this point. And that's just a really simple plug. I can plug it right in. You can always go for a more permanent option, try to run it through the side into it, or just cut the cable off and hardwire it in if you want. But I'm trying to keep this stuff as user-friendly, plug and play as possible, and that's going to be your best option for that. Now in my case, I'll just be able to run it straight up. I might even be able to like tuck it up into here and run it up in there, but we'll see. There is a few components that I do have to keep in mind before I secure it in place. Theoretically, this should be perfectly fine just securing to the side of the building. This box will be a little harder to hide, possibly be able to tuck it up under there, but you know, these are things that you're gonna wanna keep in mind when you're choosing the location to start at, is making sure that you have good power. But you're also gonna wanna consider your layout on the house itself or the building that you're attaching it to. If you're planning on going across the bottom, up, over, you know, how far are you gonna have to run each section to be able to do that? And that's gonna affect where you plug it in. It may be more beneficial to get an extension cord and run it to another location. But in the case of this one, I'm just gonna start at this point, go across the front, the side, the back, and meet back here. It's a pretty simple install when it comes to installs. So just keep that in mind. Your installation process and the things that you do will vary a little bit based on how you're planning on running everything. But since we got our place figured out and where we're gonna put it, I'm gonna go ahead and get it plugged in, and we're gonna go ahead and start putting it along the front side here. So I'm going back to the same old method that I used on the last two kits that I did, the Lumery and the Govee versions, and using isopropanol alcohol and a microfiber cloth. And you just put a little bit on the cloth, wipe down the surface before you attach the LED to it, and hold it for about 5 seconds. And that enables the 3M tape to get a little bit of a bond to it, and it seems to hold pretty good once you get it up there. So once again, this is vinyl siding. Well, actually this is metal. Vinyl siding here, metal. The old house was vinyl. It worked pretty well on that. If you have a wood surface that you're attaching to, the adhesive is not going to stick very well. So You know, it just depends on the surface that you're using as to how well it's going to adhere and how long it's going to. Take your time, make sure the surface is clean, hold it there for a little bit, give it time to actually bond, and you'll probably be pretty good. But if not, you do have the replacement adhesive strips in case a couple of them fall down. You can just pull the old strip off, put a new one on, clean the surface again, stick it, it should stay. They do recommend a spacing of 2 to 8 centimeters away from the actual side of the house. I'm gonna push a little bit closer to the 8. This is about 7.5, just like that. So I'm gonna use this book to make it really easy for me to space them out evenly the whole way across, but you can always just cut a template to give you an idea of spacing and how far you want it to be. You do wanna keep them somewhat consistent or else you will notice whenever you get everything set up. I just got a little bit of alcohol on my microfiber. Measure out about how far away, wipe the surface. It might be wet. Let it dry off. You'll see the alcohol will actually dissipate on its own. And once there is no sign of any alcohol residue, you're ready to peel. Take your spacer, hold it in place for about 5 seconds, let it go, and you should be good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and go the whole way around, keeping in mind that after 5 sections of strips, I will have to add in that booster, and then I'll add in the last 7, and we'll see where we end up. I think we'll actually be right at about 150 feet on this building. So I ended up deciding to go a little bit of a different route on this. Now, once again, I have with many Govee products, like the old permanent outdoor lights that I had, not the Pro kit, but the other one, I was able to just plug externally on the house. I had it on the house for well over a year before we ended up moving, and it still worked perfectly fine. So in my experience, you'll be fine. It is rated to be outdoors, so you should be okay. But in this case, I ended up taking the top off of this box here, and I was able to tuck everything in, plug it in inside the shop. There's an outlet right on the other side of this wall. I got it plugged into there, and then I just ran the wire from the controller up and into there. So that way the controller, everything is inside the wall on the other side, inside the shop, and everything just runs right up. So it ends up being a little bit cleaner. So just consider the situation that you're in, and you know, if you can run things inside, it's always beneficial to do that. If not, in my experience with the Govee stuff, it does seem to hold up pretty well in an environment where it can get rained on. Now, you don't want to have it on the ground because snow and standing water could cause a bigger issue. So just keep that in mind. But it does end up being pretty clean doing it the way I did. And you can see the little wire right here where it runs from inside up and out, and then straight up, tucking it into the siding here. I ran up to the top, and you can see ran the whole way down. Then from there, we ran around this corner up and down to the other side, and then straight down the back here. Once again, trying to make sure that our spacing is as even as possible. It does work pretty good if you use that little book that's in the box. Like I did, it ended up being about 7.5 centimeters. And then ran across this last side. Now I did go all the way up to the peak of the roof line, but in this case, I don't think it's much more than 12 feet. So it wasn't too bad with a little ladder. Ran it up, once again, wiping the surface with alcohol and a microfiber cloth, sticking to the surface, holding it for several seconds, and then just move on to the next. I ended up not having to use the booster that was included. It said that you had to use it if you had 12 strands in total. So I wanted to see if you only had maybe 10, if you would have to do it or not. In this case, I was just under 10. It was like 9 3/4 of a strand, and I ran it through. Everything seemed to light up when I did a test run. Now, tonight, we'll go ahead and set up the app when it's a little bit darker out, so you'll be able to see it a little bit better. And tie it in with the system, add some timers and stuff like that. All right, so we got the permanent outdoor lights installed, and we're gonna go ahead and add that device now. Now, you do need to press the power button one time to get them to connect. We're gonna go ahead and rename these. Once you've chosen a suitable name, it will ask you how many strands you have. Basically, you can go around and it will put a green light at the beginning of each of the strands, so that you can figure out how many you ended up using. I know in this case I used 10, so I'm going to choose 10. And it's gonna ask you, did you cut the device? So in my case, I did actually cut the strand to make it a little bit shorter. So I am going to say yes. And now it is going to light up the last strand of your however many you installed. And it's going to ask you how many of those LEDs are lit. And in my case, I have 8 that are lit. So I will choose 8 and hit next. And now it's going to attempt to connect to the Wi-Fi. Once again, using our IoT network on this one. All right, and now we are connected, and you can check your power on and off there. You see it kind of gradually turns on, gradually turns off. You have your solid colors, whatever color you want to go with. And then you do have your scenes. Scenes are a really good way to show off for the holidays and things like that. So, move over to festival and do your Christmas modes and things like that. And it'll just flow right around there. Once again, we are on all sides of the shop. So you can only see the front side and the house side right now, but it's flowing the whole way around the shop and all the way to the front. Now, once again, in my case, I am just going to go with the basic natural white color like that, just a soft tone to help bring some light around the shop, increase some security a little bit, and possibly scare off any animals or anything that might try to lurk around in the dark. It's a nice way to light up the shop here, and fortunately, being a 1-story, it was not too bad on the install compared to the old house where I had to climb up on the roof a little bit. So your experience with it might vary a little bit, but this gives you a pretty good idea of what's involved to actually put a kit like this on. It's not too bad, and I will say that throughout the year it does feel pretty rewarding when it's all said and done, just to be able to kind of change things on the fly and just bring lighting to a house that you traditionally wouldn't really be able to get, beyond just the wall sconces or a floodlight or something like that. I think this is a little bit of a better option in my opinion. But definitely depends on your preferences and what you're looking for. But I wouldn't hesitate to put another one of these on in other shops or houses. At some point I probably will on the main house. But for now, this does a pretty good job. Now, same deal here. If you want to set a timer, you can do that in the app on the timer side there. And there are quite a few other settings and things that you can do. So, there's a lot to play with in the app here. Groupings, is another factor that I haven't really gone super deep into. But you can actually group everything. I could group the entire yard, the shop, all of it together, and that way I can control it all together. You don't have to just group like devices, you can group other ones, but you do have a little bit more options for control when you group liked devices. So I prefer the like devices option. It's not too hard to open up a couple different groups and turn them on and off. So I go that way, but there are, quite a few different settings in there, so you can play around and try to figure out what is the best layout for you. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And check out our website, nextlevelneo.com, for any of your LED lighting needs. Thanks.